you are secretly sabotaging your own English fluency, and you don't even know it. The terrifying truth is that your brain might actually view American English as an emotional threat, a source of deep anxiety, judgment, and hidden shame. When this psychological friction exists, no expensive textbook, high-rated vocabulary app, or exhausting study routine will ever save you. You do not lack discipline. You have a broken emotional relationship with the language itself, turning every book you open into an invisible prison of mental fatigue. Welcome to Speak English with Canna. If you are ready to break this silent curse, hit subscribe right now to support the channel and unlock your true potential. I know this pain intimately. As I struggled to cross the brutal chasm from a basic A2 foundation to the confusing B1 intermediate plateau, I fell into this exact trap. I tried to force fluency through sheer willpower, but my mind violently resisted, pushing the language away to protect itself from stress. But there is a way out. Today, we will uncover 7 unusual neuroscience-backed habits that retrain your nervous system to naturally crave English again. Stay until the very end, because once you fix your emotional biology, fluency becomes inevitable. To change this toxic biological wiring, we must start by redefining how we enter the language every single night. Think about what happens when you finish a grueling day at work, exhausted from managing endless responsibilities in your native tongue. Night arrives, and it is the only sacred window where you finally feel completely free from expectations, bosses, and obligations. But then, you force yourself to open a dry, intimidating grammar book or play a fast-paced American news broadcast, and your brain instantly rebels. You are accidentally triggering a linguistic version of revenge bedtime procrastination. Your brain views this forced study as an intrusive taskmaster stealing your hard-earned freedom, so it fiercely protects its remaining peace. That is why you feel utterly drained all afternoon, yet the exact moment you resolve to practice English. You get a sudden surge of nervous energy to scroll social media or organize your room. Your mind is desperately running away from a mechanical chore. To shatter this barrier, we must transform English from an aggressive shutdown of your freedom into an emotional sanctuary. We have to train our nervous system to see American English as comfort, safety, and a genuine reward. If you are navigating the fragile intermediate plateau, stop torturing yourself with dense economic essays. Instead, watch a slow, comforting vlog of an American creator sharing their quiet daily life. Wrap yourself in a favorite blanket, turn on a warm, dim desk lamp, and sip a hot cup of tea. By pairing American English with true physical relief and emotional warmth, you trick your survival brain into letting its guard down. Your biology repeats what feels rewarding, and slowly, your mind will stop resisting the language and start craving it as your ultimate safe space to unwind. Creating this cozy sanctuary, however, is completely impossible if your mind is already drowning in a toxic sea of digital noise. Most of us unknowingly destroy our ability to absorb American English by bombarding our brains with hyperstimulation right before we practice. You spend an hour scrolling through fast-paced videos or gaming in your native tongue, inflating your dopamine baseline to an unnatural peak. Then, the moment you switch to an intermediate English audio track, your brain experiences a violent chemical crash. The foreign words suddenly feel agonizingly slow, dry, and impossible to track, forcing your hand to instinctively reach back for your phone. This is not a failure of intelligence or a lack of talent. It is a fundamental glitch in your reward circuitry. Your brain has simply categorized your native media as high-speed gratification, leaving English stranded in a low dopamine desert. To break this cycle, you must fiercely protect the psychological gateway to your immersion. Before opening your English materials, deliberately grant your nervous system 15 minutes of absolute quiet. Turn off the chaotic feeds, stretch, or simply stare out the window to let the mental storm subside. At first, the stillness will feel incredibly uncomfortable, but with consistency, your baseline recalibrates. Once the chemical noise clears, your natural curiosity wakes up. An ordinary American audio story will no longer feel like a tedious chore, but a deeply engaging escape where you can finally slow down enough to notice the beautiful nuances of real pronunciation. Once your mind slows down enough to absorb those delicate linguistic sounds, you face a new danger, letting the session bleed endlessly into the rest of your night. Most adult learners struggle to retain vocabulary because modern learning has no psychological boundaries. We review flashcards while cooking or listen to podcasts until the exact second we fall asleep, never giving the brain a formal closure signal. Consequently, your mind stays locked in a semi-alert state, anxiously processing mistakes in the background. To fix this, you must give your language brain an unyielding ending ritual. The basal ganglia, which governs our subconscious habits, relies on predictable closure to shift your nervous system from active calculation to passive memory consolidation. This boundary can be profoundly simple. Close your notebook with a deliberate, firm motion. Turn off a specific lamp. Or look at your hands and say, "The English session is done." The magic isn't in the gesture. It is in the absolute predictability of the routine. By deliberately closing the file, you lift the heavy cognitive load of tracking what you forgot. You give your brain permission to stop performing, which ironically frees your subconscious min to quietly organize, store, and weave those new American English structures into your long-term memory while you finally rest. Just as a definitive ending preserves your mental energy after learning, a predictable beginning is what prepares your brain to accept the language without a fight. Unfortunately, most of us unknowingly treat our study sessions with absolute chaos, swinging violently between extremes. One night, you might force yourself through an exhausting 2-hour grammar session at midnight. The next day, you frantically swipe through a vocabulary app for 5 minutes during a noisy, stressful lunch break. And over the weekend, you attempt to watch an entire American film without subtitles until you feel completely defeated. This constant environmental instability forces your nervous system into a state of high alert. Your brain learns to anticipate friction and emotional strain, so it preemptively locks its gates whenever English approaches. To dissolve this deep-seated anxiety, you need to rely on the soothing power of neural predictability. Your brain craves certainty, and when it knows exactly what is about to happen, its biological defenses naturally drop. Instead of designing massive, exhausting study routines that drain your willpower before you even start, master the art of tiny, identical anchor cues. Every single time before you practice listening or reading, perform a precise, unvarying sequence of physical actions. Slide your phone into Do Not Disturb, pour a glass of warm water, and adjust your desk light in the exact same order. There is no linguistic magic hidden within these ordinary objects. The true power lies entirely in the predictability of the ritual. Your mind recognizes this sequence as an absolute guarantee of safety and focus. By anchoring your environment, you signal your nervous system to lower its guard, allowing your auditory filters to open up and naturally welcome American English before the first word is even spoken. Even when your physical space is perfectly anchored and quiet, the silent storm raging inside your own mind can still blindside your progress. When you sit down to bridge that painful gap between intermediate B1 and advanced B2, your mind often fills with the ghosts of past failures. You remember the exact moment your voice trembled in a meeting, or the stinging shame of forgetting a basic word in front of others. In the deep quiet of your study room, these unfinished emotional loops become deafening. Due to the Zeigarnik effect, the brain's hardwired obsession with unresolved tasks and emotional friction, your mind hoards these linguistic anxieties, burning valuable cognitive fuel that should be capturing new sentence patterns. To stop this internal bleeding, you must physically exile your fluency anxiety from your desk before you practice. Keep a raw piece of scrap paper beside you and pour your heaviest language fear onto it. Write it without filter. I feel deeply discouraged because I still can't catch Native American speed. The moment that vulnerability transitions from a mental loop into physical ink, a profound neurological shift happens. Your brain registers temporary closure, realizing it no longer needs to expend active energy to protect that worry. The crushing cognitive load lifts, leaving your mind beautifully empty, receptive, and fully primed to finally absorb the language with absolute clarity. Once your mind is beautifully cleared of those lingering ghosts, you must guard against the next subtle trap, trying to violently conquer the language itself. Many of us approach vocabulary with a desperate urgency, staring at a list of intermediate American phrasal verbs, like bring up, while demanding our brains memorize them instantly to avoid looking incompetent tomorrow. This aggressive emotional pressure accidentally triggers your threat detection system. A brain fighting for survival is biologically locked. It cannot absorb abstract linguistic structures. Instead of forcing mastery through sheer mechanical willpower, you must trick your mind into a state of fluid, natural absorption using cognitive shuffling. When the human brain relaxes, its thought patterns naturally fragment. We can mimic this peaceful state by shifting our focus away from the high-stakes meaning and onto random, neutral, visual, concrete nouns. For the letters of your English target phrase, lightly visualize an apple, a bridge, a cloud, or a river. This gentle distraction shatters the anxious mental loops, signaling absolute biological safety to your nervous system. By stopping the frantic analytical panic, you allow your linguistic subconscious to step in, processing new words with the friction-free ease of a child effortlessly soaking up speech. This effortless subconscious absorption, however, can only happen if you cure the deepest, most invisible wound of all, chronic hypervigilance, if your nervous system hoards past language failures. Like the biting sting of a teacher's criticism, or the crushing inadequacy of being misunderstood. It stores those memories as genuine trauma responses. Consequently, the moment you attempt to practice American English, your body goes into high defense, even if you are sitting completely alone in a quiet room. Your mind enters a frantic monitoring mode, prioritizing psychological survival over deep learning, which builds a thick neural wall that causes clear words to bounce off your skull without ever sinking in. Language acquisition and emotional health are completely inseparable. Your biology is hardwired to absorb a foreign tongue only when it feels unconditionally safe. You can never bully your mind into real fluency through aggressive self-criticism or forced discipline. Instead, you must gently invite the language in by consciously soothing your nervous system before you open a book. Dim your lights, slow your breathing, and speak to yourself with the radical patience of a companion. A calm nervous system completely shifts your internal chemistry, dissolving the walls of anxiety and unlocking the neural pathways required for organic fluency. When your internal chemistry shifts from defense to safety, the entire landscape of your language journey fundamentally transforms. Real, sustainable growth from a hesitant foundation to absolute fluency is never achieved through brutal cramming or sacrificing your mental peace. Your nervous system is an incredibly sensitive pattern recognition machine. If English always feels heavy and isolating, your brain will rightfully treat it as an enemy. But when you actively condition your practice to feel comforting and safe, the deep-seated resistance evaporates. We are not trying to mechanically force words into our minds through sheer panic, but teaching ourselves to genuinely love expression again. If this perspective brought you a sense of relief, please leave a like to help other struggling learners discover this sanctuary. Share your own fluency burdens in the comments below. I read them all and want to walk with you. Subscribe to Speak English with Kana to continue mastering the gentle, neuroscience-backed habits that truly transform how we learn and live. Let's take the next step together.